Hello everyone, and welcome back to Safari Mack Explores North America. I'm Safari Mack, your guide and host, helping you make connections to the wild. Well, ladies and gentlemen, today we leave Anchorage and the moose behind and travel east to the Kenai Mountain range where we meet a real tough guy. I give to you the Wolverine. No, not him. This guy, Wolverine, otherwise known by their Latin name of Gullo Gullo. Now, it seems like at first glance that these creatures aren't much to fret over, right? But for anybody that lives close to wild wolverines or has ever encountered a wolverine, you know how these guys really do like to pack a good punch. And we'll get into exactly how they do that. Now, before we begin, however, if you're new to my channel, hit that like and subscribe button. Check out my Facebook page for special content on conservation tips and projects from all over the world. And finally, if you have a question about animals, or if there's an animal that you want me to do in the future, all you gotta do is just send me an email, which you will find the link to down in my description below. But if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's get started with its family and its evolution. Now, we've already met a few of this creature's cousins already. Namely, the river otter, and more recently, back in Yellowstone, the American badger. These guys are part of what you call the Mustelidae family, meaning they are like that of a weasel or a mongoose. As you can see, very low, almost all the way low to the ground, short stubby legs, bit of a long fat-like body, and they also have, near the base of their rear end, a kind of scent gland that makes them smell really bad, but is crucial for helping them mark their territory. Now, we've already covered the evolution of these guys, both in river otter and in American badger, but I can give you a quick recap if you'd like. Around 40 million years ago, at the same time as the rodent family was starting to appear, these creatures evolved. However, by around 18 million years ago, they would evolve into the different subspecies and creatures that we know of this unusual family today. Now, it turns out for wolverines that these creatures, they're genetically more related to this guy, the marten and the tyra, which actually shares a common ancestor back in Eurasia. Now, today we find only the European badger and the American badger, but both originated, or said to have originated in Eurasia millions of years ago, or thousands of years ago, and crossing over the Bering Sea land bridge at the time of the previous ice ages, they would eventually come into North America while others would head west and colonize Europe. Now, for wolverines, these guys are more meant to be living a complete solitary lifestyle, except for when it's time for breeding. Their habitat usually is that of the northern boreal forests and near the alpine regions or the alpine tundra regions, where they constantly wander these lands looking for food. What kind of food? We'll get into that a little bit. So like I said, this creature is a complete solitary animal. They really just do not want to mix with each other, and nor do they even want to mix with any other animals as much, though they do have the power to be able to do so. Now, here's how it begins with their lifestyle. During the summers of May and August, they begin to breed. That's their breeding season, or with June being more of the peak of their season of when they're establishing who exactly is the top wolverine male to breed with the most number of females. So the males often fight each other for as long as possible to establish themselves as successful males. And what do I mean by successful males? They do have a bit of rewards to reap. We'll get into that though a little bit. The wolverine will mate in the late summer months, but like our friend the American badger back in Yellowstone National Park, they actually go through a process where they mate but they do not actually become pregnant until months later. So during the winter time, that's when mom in her den will begin to ovulate or develop the embryos, and then 30 to 50 days later, she gives birth from anywhere from 2 to 3 babies, or what we are going to call kits. So they usually stick with their mother for around six months until they're ready to leave. And some wolverines, it's been now noted and studied out in the field that some will actually reconnect with their own fathers. Here's an early wild thing for you. In the early days, while the babies are still suckling with their mom, the father, the male who bred with that female or females, will actually go and visit these females, at least until the babies themselves are around 10 weeks old. So, who knew that a tough guy would also be a bit of a caring father? But after they leave their mothers at around 6 months of age, like I said, they'll reconnect with their fathers, and they'll begin to find their own territories to take over or to establish for themselves. And so they'll travel together for a bit of a time. Now, let's get into their diet. Now, as we know, these creatures are big meat eaters, but these are actually primarily scavengers. A big percentage of their food is carrion. So like our jackal, like our vulture or others, they would prefer to feed on animals that have already died. Although these animals, despite their appearance and despite their size, they are pretty formidable, and they are actually known to take down pretty large prey. They can take down caribou, Dall sheep. They've even been recorded actually taking down and killing moose. So for our moose friends, they should probably start running, like now, before they catch up. Now, often because they're scavengers, they are actually known to sometimes follow wolves and even lynx to a kill, where they wait their turn, or if it's a pack of wolves, as we know, as it's been popularly recorded, they seem to be jumping in as wolves are feeding on a carcass and stealing what they can. It seems like they're like the honey badger. I mean, as we know, honey badger don't care. So I'm guessing Wolverine doesn't care either. In any case, though, they'll follow wolves, they'll follow bears, they'll do whatever they can to find food. And here's an interesting fact. For Wolverine females, they've actually been observed doing a kind of feeding behavior called caching. That's C-A-C-H-I-N-G. Not caching, not with like cash, but caching. That means that they're catching as much food as possible and then storing it away somewhere close to where their den will be, so that, especially for females, while they're lactating and trying to keep their pups safe, they can have enough food not only to keep themselves going, but to produce enough milk to feed their babies. Because as we know, being a mother is very tiring work. Finally, let's end today's episode with their influence in human culture. Who knows perhaps because of their popular image of being a real tough guy, they certainly have earned their place in human culture. Even in history and mythology, many North American teams and states have actually organized the Wolverine as their mascot. From football to Michigan State, they were even featured once with George Armstrong Custer of World War II, of a group of volunteers that called themselves the Wolverines. This was the Michigan Brigade. And finally, as we know, Marvel came up with their popular character of Wolverine, though I've never fully seen it myself. In fact, I need to remember to watch Deadpool and Wolverine later. But enough about me. Thank you for joining me for today's Part 1 episode. Be sure to join me for Part 2 next Saturday. Until then, this is Safari Mack, and I'll see you all out there.